It's funny, isn't it? Because in politics, I think reality and perception are two different things, that are both very powerful. In terms of Cape Independence itself, we did very well in the elections, and we pretty well came in where I expected us to be. So we were anticipating that parties who openly supported secession would get between 5 and 6% of the vote, and collectively they got 5.3% of the provincial vote. But that, of course, was split between the three parties that all had Cape Independence in their manifestos, which was the Freedom Front, the Cape Coloured Congress, and the Cape Independence Party. But the Cape Independence Party probably had a slightly disappointing election, and of course that has, for anybody who wants to equate Cape Independence with the Cape Independence Party in its entirety, then obviously that has led to people saying, look, hang on a second, it's been a bad election for Cape Independence. And unfortunately for the independence movement, that does create a problem of perception, because I think there is a general perception that Cape Independence didn't do very well, when in actual fact its support for secessionist parties grew from 0.8% to 5.3%. And then we also have to remember that there were local government elections, and we know the vast majority of independent supporters vote for the DA. And just to put that into context, we polled twice in 2020 and 2021, and in 2020 there was 36% support for Cape Independence, 2021 46% support for Cape Independence, and on both occasions the Cape Independence Party didn't actually register in polling at all, because they're a small peripheral party and an important party, and an ally of ours, but they certainly aren't where the majority of Cape Independence supporters put their votes.
Does Fadil Adams still support Cape Independence? I recently saw a video which he seemed to suggest in an Al Jazeera video that Cape Independence is the same as creating a Volksstaat.
So, well, funny enough, look, I'm trying to speak to Fadil as we speak. So, actually, if you saw that interview, it was slightly conflicted. What he said was, look, we don't want to be slaves, but I think secession is a very good idea. And actually, if you go, it's in their constitution. They support Cape Independence. Or Cape Independence. They support a broader version. They want the Northern Cape and parts of the Eastern Cape to be included too. But I think one of the things, I like Fadil. He's obviously a sort of fairly radical politician. He is very passionate about the coloured people, and I'm fully behind him in that. I think they've got a terribly rough deal over the time, and he wants to have a fair shake of the whip, I suppose. But what I would say, and my message to Fadil, both personally when I've spoken to him and now, is look, don't be on the outside of the movement. Effectively what Fadil was saying is we want Cape Independence, but we don't want your version of Cape Independence. And my answer to Fadil is there is no our version or the Freedom Front's version or the Cape Independence. This is something that we're all going to collectively own, and they must come on the inside and fight for their version of Cape Independence with us. And ultimately, it's not going to be any one of us that decides individually what Cape Independence looks like. It's going to be the collective people of the Western Cape democratically deciding that. So, but they do support secession, yes, but clearly what they don't want is to see white privilege preserved, and for Cape Independence to be an excuse for that, and nor do we, and nor do the Freedom Front Plus, I'm sure. So on that, I would completely agree with him. But I would prefer to have a closer working relationship.
Yeah, it seems like a logistical nightmare to keep all these movements together in favor of Cape Independence. But Wynand, is one of the reasons why the Freedom Front Plus did so well in the Western Cape Independence.
I think it's certainly one of the reasons. The whole South African dispensation is a federation with a unitary nature, or the other way around, just the way you want to see it, because there are federal characteristics in the constitution, but that has not came into reality because we have a centralized governing party wanting to, keep everything under the central government's control. And that seemed all nice and acceptable as long as there was an idea that, maybe the central government knows what it does. The more that unravels, the more federal kind of thinking will gain ground. And that is what had happened in the 2021 elections, even before that in the 2019 elections, that parties with a local emphasis and with an emphasis on community rights did better than before. We have with the ANC and with the DA and the EFF, the three major parties, the three parties getting more than 10%. They have a very strong national perspective, and they take the unitary state of South Africa as a given, and then they work from that. The Freedom Front, together with other parties, have another view of what South Africa should look like. It's always funny to think that South Africa is just a little bit more than 110 years old. I mean, we view it as if it has been called into being with the creation. And on the 8th day, the Lord said, there shall be South Africa. And we seem not to be able to think ourselves out of this colonial South Africa. If I say we, I mean the broad South African population. Now, I think it's an advantage if you have a multitude of parties and organizations all advocating for this idea of Cape independence, having different views on it, what it should look like, how it should come about, because then it becomes what Phil called our shared independence, and not somebody's, not the Freedom Fronts or not whoever's. Now, I think I like to start the discussion with referring to an independent Cape, and then I like to let that evolve into a federal Cape, because very easily one can see an independent Cape as just a mirror image or a smaller model of the present South Africa. So we have a centralized South Africa, and then we will just have half that size, a centralized Cape. But if we approach that in a very fundamental federal way, to say, it doesn't even need to be symmetrical. In the Cape Metropole, we have a strong independent city. Of course, not sovereign independency like, say, the Vatican or something like that, but the Cape Town has a nature of its own, which is distinctly different from the Boland or the Klein Karoo or the Makwaland or other areas. We are also, part of the Cape thinkers. We think that the Northern Cape, or the largest part of the Northern Cape, should constitute a part of an independent Cape. But that will all depend on the question whether there will be support for that. We can sit around saying this should be included, that should be excluded. It's to be decided by the people in the different areas. I think the problems in South Africa, or the problem with South Africa, hasn't reached such a stage that independence is the first thing in people's minds. And that's why a single issue party like the Cape Independence Party got limited support. Even the Freedom Front got limited support because the Freedom Front is viewed as a little bit of a single issue party. While, let's say, a lot of their voters have a single issue, and that is to beat the ANC. Let's take it from there. I don't want to keep on rambling on.